Okay.
Hi, everyone. Welcome to our third episode of Greysheet Live Podcast. It is June 19th, 2025. And this time we're coming to you live, or half of us are coming to you live from the Baltimore Whitman Expo. And of course, I'm joined by our CEO, John Feigenbaum, and a couple of special guests that we're very excited to talk to over the next, 50 to 60 minutes. I'm here in somewhat overcast Orange County. Close to our guest home office. So John, I'll throw it over to you. How's the show? How are things today?
Thanks, Patrick. I appreciate it. Yeah, we're here. You can't see from this angle, but we're here at the Whitman Expo, and it's the June show that I've been coming to probably for 25 or 30 years. And the activity is really good. It's busier than I expected. We kind of always expect this to be the quiet show. It's a little smaller physically than the other ones, about 2/3 of the physical size. But dealers came yesterday for basically they have a trading room or two here in the convention center. They look at auction lots at Stack's Bowers, and they do a lot more of the dealer-to-dealer business happens before a show starts. So then the show starts, and then there's about a 3-hour. There was a setup last night from 6 to 9 p.m. or so, and then this morning there's a couple more hours of that, and then the public comes in. I think the public came in around 11. And the room became quite busy. I mean, this is it. If you're a real serious coin collector and in the Northeast, you're going to come here, right? You're going to come to Baltimore. You're probably going to get it done on a Thursday if you can. Why? Because the best coins sell by the first day. So you don't want to lose it. Dealers will also start going home later on Friday and things like that. So this is the day to be here if you're a serious collector. And then Friday and Saturday, there'll be more, other collectors and things like that, and the dealers will, some dealers will hang in there for the long term. And speaking of a dealer who's leaving today, I have a good friend of mine, John Kraljecvich.
Good to see you, buddy.
Now that you've trained me, I messed it all up after 30 years of friendship or so. John is here. He's with head researcher at Stack's Bowers Galleries, right? And that's an understatement, to be honest with you, for what talents he brings. But he's also, a dear friend, and we have a lot of good laughs. So but we're going to talk on any number of topics today we got him for like 10 or 15 minutes before he beats the Beltway traffic. So John, tell us a little bit about what's going on for you here at Stack's, whatever.
Yeah, sure. So coming here, I was working with a couple of customers, wanted to show me some things, run some coins by me, look at a couple auction lots for folks. Some of the folks from Stack's Bowers sent things in from California or New York to get my expertise and get a look at things that'll be appearing in future auctions. And then I get to walk around and buy some things and talk to some folks and shake some hands. And then I'll be back at my desk cataloging more stuff.
I do some podcasts.
And podcasts, always time for a podcast. And yeah, more cataloging continues. I'm working on our ANA related sale right now, which will take place in late August after the ANA convention.
Right.
And then I'm going to have a whole lot more cataloging to do for interesting consignments coming up in October and November. So I had a lot of work ahead of me these next few months.
Right. I mean, I was really surprised about how late the ANA is this year. It's strange to me that what is August 19 to 26 or something.
It's brutally late. Yeah.
It's never been that late. It's almost always been late July. Then they started inching it towards early August.
That's right.
Now they just, I don't know. I mean, a lot of people can't go even because their kids are back in school.
That's exactly right.
It's an issue.
That's exactly right.
And because it's in Oklahoma City, which is a strange choice. But we won't talk about that at this podcast today. We're here to celebrate, numismatics and talk about fun things. So what are the coolest things that if they're not, you have anything really cool in the sale coming up next week that's related to the Whitman Expo? And then what are you working on for ANS?
So there's a bunch of neat stuff in our next sale that we're doing lot viewing for here. Probably the most interesting lot to me. I do a lot with American historical medals, early American Revolutionary War oriented stuff. There's a medal there that was struck in Paris in the 1780s, probably about 1788. That was authorized by the Continental Congress to give to a French officer in the Continental Army, whose name was De Fleury. And he was De Fleury, exactly. Précisément.
Yeah.
And he was one of 3 guys granted medals by the Continental Congress for the taking of Stony Point, which is near West Point in New York in the Hudson Valley. Right. Anthony Wayne was one, and then John Stewart was the other. Interesting thing about the De Fleury medal is
what's interesting?
Aside from the fact that it's a Revolutionary War medal given to a French officer who was dressed like a Roman gladiator on the medal.
Okay.
What's particularly interesting about a De Fleury medal there was a sequence of American officials in Paris who helped to acquire these medals on behalf of the Continental Congress because all the good engravers were in Paris. The DeFleury medal is the only one that was completed under the leadership of Ben Franklin.
Okay.
Which I think is really fascinating, right?
So he's not on the medal.
He's not.
But did he strike the medal, or
he was the bureaucrat who did all the work behind the scenes to get the medal struck, getting
all the red tape.
Medals purchased and hire the engraver and back and forth to the Congress.
Right.
You know, when he wasn't hanging out, naked in his window in Paris or flirting with teenagers. He did a little bit of work. So
he hung out in Paris more than the U.S. Is that right? Or what the
colonies? Most of his adult life, he lived in London.
Oh, in London.
And then he lived in Paris from about 1778 through about 1785. Then he came home and he died in Philadelphia in 1790.
All right. So not that I'm a medal guy or whatever, but you said 1788. That's the year after the Revolution, right? 1787.
So the medal was authorized in 1779.
Right.
It took that long to actually get the medal completed.
But wasn't everybody sort of dead and blood in the streets and Tale of Two Cities going on at that
around
point?
1789, 90, but Jefferson got out of Paris in early
after.
89 when he started feeling the heat.
So there's no real medals coming out in that period, right? Maybe the next year.
Oh, there are, not American medals. There's some wonderful French Revolutionary medals of that era, some of which are super crude and were basically struck on the street with something that looked like a waffle iron. These guys were making crude pewter medals in the streets while the rioting was going on.
Wow. All right. So and what is this DeFleury medal worth?
$30,000 thereabouts.
And that's and its value is derived because A, of course it's rare, but B, because Benjamin Franklin's involved.
So the real value of a DeFleury medal is the rarity. It's one of the only medals that was never restruck from the original dies. So if you want a DeFleury medal, you either buy one of the 25 bronzes struck in the 1780s,
right,
or you buy essentially the U.S. Mint counterfeit replica dies that weren't conceived until the 1880s. Okay. So if you want something that looks 18th century, you got to buy one of the originals.
So so there's a few known of this one?
Probably 15 known, something
15
like that.
Known. Yeah. Okay. And do the medals people really care about the quality like the numismatic people?
They didn't used to. So that's sort of a new thing. When I started getting really into medals 25, 30 years ago, they were using English style grading and slabbing was never a thing. No one talked about certifying these things or grading these. But the modern generation of collectors really started pursuing these Commedia Americana medals in the era of certification. So they've never known a world when these things were wrapped up in tissue paper and tucked in a brown paper envelope.
How big is this thing?
A little bigger than silver dollar size.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Interesting.
So not terribly big, but yes. So condition's a big issue. Right. Just like anything else of that era that U.S. collectors are chasing after, it's going to be more expensive the nicer it is.
Right. Right. And John, one of the things that John's really I always text John when I'm anywhere, some museum somewhere. I'll say, "Oh, check out this picture. I'll show you a rare Indian peace medal." That's the thing I know you know a lot about. Yeah. I know very little about any of those things, but the Indian peace medals are super cool.
They are.
And I guess they're larger generally. And they're
generally larger. And peace medals are actually interesting in terms of the quality-price relationship. Because if an Indian peace medal is too nice, a lot of collectors don't want it. Because it wasn't used. Exactly. An Indian peace medal. Bingo. An Indian peace medal that's in perfect gem condition was probably given to some government official who's then stuck it in some mahogany cabinet in Philadelphia or Boston and never touched it. Whereas the people who collect peace medals like the romance of one that hung around someone's neck while they're, riding a horse across the plains and sleeping in a teepee. And if it's not beat up, it wasn't on horseback.
And an Indian peace medals are worth anywhere from what to what?
An awarded Indian peace medal, so something that was struck in silver and actually presented to a Native American. Your low end is going to be $5,000-6,000, and that can go up to many hundreds of thousands.
Interesting. What's the Holy Grail?
Well, the Holy Grail is probably an oval George Washington Indian peace medal. We've actually had one of those here at the Whitman Expo in one of our sales. So we've talked about one of those together before, and those are all six-figure items. They're very, very rare. Okay. In terms of a struck U.S. Mint piece, the Benjamin Harrison medals were the very last one struck. Very rare, sort of the punctuation on the series.
Was he one of those short-term president guys?
Harrison served one term.
One term.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. I'm not assassinated. I'm not.
He was not.
You got to know your history to know these things, and that's a little bit of a problem for me about knowing American history and all the presidents and so on. But a lot of that relates very specifically.
Oh, for sure.
The people who buy those medals love presidential history.
That's right.
Okay.
Yeah, that's exactly right.
And if you don't have to know the history, just buy the books.
True.
Well, right, but you have to kind of want to know the history, I suppose.
For sure.
I think knowing the history makes you kind of want them more.
Yes.
And therefore the lack of thereof, it puts me in the category of, I think they're cool, but I don't understand it. The more you understand it, the more it speaks to you. Now, just being crazy, we call this exonumia, right?
This is all exonumia. Yeah.
This is under the blanket of exonumia, and it's always been a niche within the coin business that there's an exonumia collectors, and we relegate you guys to the back corner of the room.
Gotcha.
I mean, is that becoming more mainstream?
Oh, it's been mainstream.
Oh, stop.
No, it has, seriously. I mean, when I first started working in this field, so I started working for Bowers and Moretta in September of 2000.
Mm-hmm.
And in March 2001, we sold the first ever American historical medal that crossed the $100,000 mark.
Right.
Now it's not unusual for us to have 4, 5, 10, 20 in a single sale.
Wow.
That are worth that much. So I think it's absolutely been mainstreamed. Most of this stuff is certified by PCGS and NGC. It trades at fairly fixed levels for a lot of the stuff. So
price guide coming, I guess. I guess we should work on that.
The problem is it's such a big field.
Too big, right?
And especially with something like piece metals, they don't fit neatly into a 70-point grading system.
No, but it would be nice to. I don't know. Is there a book on Indian piece metals? Is there a reference?
Several.
There are several.
None of them are great.
Okay. Could you write a great one?
Probably.
Would you write a great one?
I don't know. You want to pay about 5 years of my salary and lock me up in a cabin in the woods?
No, I want to. I mean, we always tell authors it's a labor of love. It's a labor of love. Show the love to your series. But but
sometimes I have to do a labor of sleep. I mean, it's great to write books all night.
That's right.
I'm an older fella now, so.
Infinite subjects that you could write on for sure. All right, so tell me real quick, who is the buyer of metals, of exonumia? Is it an older collector than a standard U.S. coin collector?
I wouldn't say
What's the demographic?
So. No, I think the demographic actually is pretty similar to regular U.S. coins, regular federal coins. Mm-hmm. You certainly have those, retired titans of industry types that, have big checkbooks and, spend a lot of time sitting on fancy beaches reading historical books.
Right, right.
But there's also plenty of people younger than me who are chasing this field seriously. Lots, many. I have lots of collectors of this material because it's so scalable and tailorable. It's not like I've decided to collect standing Liberty quarters and I'm going to get one from 1916 through 1930, all the mint marks, all the major varieties.
Right.
With metals, you can define whatever you want. And you can say, hey, I grew up in Pottstown, Pennsylvania. I'm going to collect all of the Pottstown metals or merchant tokens or what have you.
Right.
So you can start a collection of things that are $5 each that's going to cost you $500 when you're done, or you can start a collection of things that are going to cost you $100 each that you'll never finish, and infinite variations.
Right.
And that means there's an infinite variation in the typical collector.
Well, and I got to add one thing that you didn't mention too, from a trading standpoint. We used to call these things gray area coins, right? In other words, every U.S. coins are so discrete. We published the Greysheet. We kind of know what every coin is worth in all these different grades. And so if you buy a rare American coin for 1916 quarter and AU50, your spread is pretty, it's defined for you by the market. The market says this is worth $11,000 in AU and it's $12,500 in AU53. And so you buy it for $11,250 and you sell it for $12,000.
Right.
But you can buy metals. And you could if you buy a $10,000 metal, you might just sit on that for a little while longer, so you won't sell as fast. The liquidity is lower, but you might sell it for $20,000. But what you have to know is what John and people like John, which is not really that many people in my opinion, this deep knowledge is what brings you the value. So if you can't sit at the table and talk to people in depth about this subject. And every time I come to see you at a show, you're usually 3 deep with people who want to talk all day long about DeFleury and Franklin and how they had a secret love affair or something like that. And that adds value to the story because the story is the value.
That's right.
And so I know it. Like if you didn't add Franklin to the story, that's probably $2,000 right there or $5,000.
It's a lot less interesting. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. So that's the whole point. If you're interested in metals, it's kind of like ancient coins, right? Ancient coins. You just got to know there's about a small number of very common ancient coins, and then the rest. If you don't know your rulers, then you don't. If you don't know Rome and Greece and Macedonia and all these other things, and all the different rulers and which one only lived for 2 years or 2 hours, you don't know your subject.
That's right.
So,
but there's an excitement in that because if I was a standing Liberty quarter specialist, 8 months into specializing, I would have seen every standing Liberty quarter on the planet that mattered, right?
Probably.
Now, I've been doing metals, tokens, exonumia full time for almost 30 years. I learned new stuff all the time. I see stuff I've never seen before. And the neat thing about the things that I've never seen before, like to show you a federal coin you'd never seen before, it's going to be something super obscure and meaningless or something extremely rare and valuable.
Yeah.
I see important metals and tokens all the time that I've never seen before that aren't worth that much, that are still super interesting. They're just obscure, and so that gives every collector a sense of discovery.
And it also helps you with your budget, so you don't have to be the wealthiest kind of planet. If you want to put together a great set of Standing Liberty quarters, it's going to cost you a lot of money. We already know that. You can put together a very, very an amazing set of so-called dollars or whatever kinds of metals that of the thing that interests you. Like the Columbian Exposition issued, I don't know, hundreds and hundreds, thousands.
Truly.
You can spend your whole life focusing on Columbian Exposition metals and tokens and things like that, and you can do it inexpensively. And these coins were made in 1892, 1893, so they're beautiful. And some of them are ultra high relief, which is an amazing thing that didn't occur in coinage at that time. So I think it's really cool. All right, before we sign you out, because I know you got to get on the road. What is the coolest coin coming up at A&A that you can tell us about? With the A&A sale or two or whatever.
Well, so the thing I'm principally working on for the A&A sale is the Richard August collection of Fujio coppers. And Dick August was a fixture at the Baltimore shows, at shows for generations, active collector since the 1950s.
Awesome.
Had one of the all-time great collections of colonial and early American copper coins. And this is a very impressive variety collection of Fujios. So all of the different die varieties as cataloged by Eric Newman, but he has two that are unique. Varieties where the only ones in existence are in this collection.
They're just getting unique.
They are unique. They are
so what is a unique Fujio set worth?
Six figures.
Six figures.
It's a six-figure.
Low six figures?
Yeah.
100,000?
Yeah. I mean, so one of them has an auction record around there.
Okay.
So and that was years and years ago. So yeah.
How many Fujio cents are there if you just collected one of everything on the Fujio cents?
I think it's 56. It's 50 something. It's
50 something. And the catalog, the standardized catalog for that is what?
Newman.
We're really big on that.
Yes, Newman. So they are attributed by Newman numbers, but all of those varieties are also in the Whitman book of colonial and early American coins by Dave Bowers. He enumerates each of those die varieties. So for someone looking for a easy to access reference, that will have pictures.
Did we publish that book at Whitman?
I think you did publish that book.
Really? I got to dig through the bookcase on that. We're still discovering things at Whitman that we published.
There you go.
So, John, thanks so much for coming.
Awesome. Good to see you.
This was appreciated.
Patrick, be well.
Safe trip home. And our next guest is going to be Noal White. Some of you may recognize the name Noal White because he is our new editor for the Cherrypicker guys. So this is really exciting. Noal's going to sit down and join us, and we're going to talk about something completely different now. We're going to talk about die varieties and cherry picking, as it were. So Noal, please have a seat.
Do your worst.
You're okay. Say something. We're testing this. Is all. Patrick, say something.
Hey Noal, how's it going?
Yep.
You hear?
Good. Yep.
All right. Awesome. We're all figuring this out. This is the first time we've done little headphones. And do you have a microphone?
No.
Oh, hold on, John. You got the microphone. John, our last guest stole the microphone. You got to watch a coin dealer carefully.
That's true. That's very true.
So Noal, thanks for joining us.
Absolutely.
This is great. I know you're busy. There's a lot going on at this show.
Yep.
We'll turn the camera around soon. But Noal has been brought on as our new editor for the Cherrypicker guides, as some of our listeners will know. This is the Cherrypicker guides. About 20 years old. Would you say? You probably know the history of this better than I do. And the numbering system in the Cherrypicker. If you've ever seen, the numbers for. What's the? All of a sudden, I'm spacing out.
The FS numbers.
The FS numbers, like FIBA stand. Now I've got 14 catalogs in front of me. I've been talking catalogs all day. Right. The FS numbers, a FIBA Stanton numbering system, which doesn't really speak to Cherrypicker, but that's another matter. Right. Those are the numbers from the Cherrypicker guide. Our next guest is walking up too. This will be John Dannreuther. He's coming up next. So anyway, Noal is taking on this kind of thankless, impossible, rewarding task of helping us reorganize 20 years and multiple editors of Cherrypickers. Noal, tell us a little about your background, why you are the worthy person for this.
I appreciate that. So I've been in the industry now as a dealer for 20 years myself. So I kind of grew up with the whole Cherrypickers thing and very familiar with that. What got me started in coin collecting 30 years ago was finding a cud in a Lincoln bag that I got from the bank. So I've always been interested in errors and varieties. From that,
the cud got you going.
Yep.
Interesting. Something always gets people going. Yeah.
So it's been a.
So you find a cud, and then how did that develop into a hobby? Like, what was the next thing? You went to a coin shop?
Doing the research on it to find out why that happened, and then
pre-internet.
Okay.
Okay.
Early internet.
So you go to a coin shop. You went to a coin show, and
Coin shops. Yep.
Okay.
And talking with other dealers. My grandfather had owned an antique store, and he had coins in it. My uncle was taking over. So when I was 11, I helped him do work on houses, and I would get paid by going through his antique shop and picking out stuff. So I would pick coins.
Cherry picker. You're like the OG cherry picker. Good.
So that's, yep. Okay. Nice. So that's how I got started with it after that. And then it just kind of snowballed into everything. I had an opportunity back in 05 to buy a shop from somebody, and it's been all downhill ever since.
That's awesome. I was an early cherry picker too. My dad would take me to coin shows like the one we're here, and he would give me like $5. First he gave me $1, then he gave me $5. And the same kind of thing. I had to try to generate value from this thing. And I remember my earliest cherry pick that I could pick off people was the 1869 over so-called 69 over 8 penny. Okay. And it turns out, and I figured this out like I don't know, six or 7 years old, that every 69 is a 69 over something. They just if you could find one that's clean, it's rare. Yep. But people never looked at it that way. If you could see something, the Greysheet might have been, I don't know, $20 or something for an XF, but it was $30 for the 9 over 8. And so I would come at every show. I could find 2 or 3. I could easily find 9 over 8s, and they would sell. People like them, and so that was my way of doing it. And my cherry picks later were things just like better date barbers, because if you can believe it, back in let's say mid 1980s, people didn't even care much about mint marks yet. They didn't know that a 1908 S quarter was better than any other barber. All these guys, either they were silver dollar people or roll people, 50D nickels or 70D halves, and they didn't care about mint mark barbers. So it was a very interesting time that you could really pick. I mean, you can pick things off now, or how do you do now? Yeah, every day.
Still can. The things actually I'm been cherry picking have been discoveries of things of older coins, not more newer stuff. So it's been interesting to think that of the people who have gone before me, that they've all been through this stuff. How did they miss this?
Right. And some super rare varieties have gone decades before discovery, right? Like the 16 double die nickel, very rare coin. That was not discovered until what? You know when? That was decades later, I believe.
Correct. Yeah.
And that is no subtle variety in a world that was looking for 1955 double dies and things like that. I don't know. I guess maybe it was found before 55. I don't know.
But just
over like, 1 dimes.
The small letters reverse cap bus half. What is it? The 1834, 36.
I want to say 38 maybe.
That was just discovered what, 7-8 years ago.
Yeah, I love that coin. I know which one. It's been a while since I did some research on that, but when I was doing early Greysheet pricing, this was kind of a variety that wasn't being looked at.
Correct.
And all I think Stack sold one, and for some huge amount of money versus a common date. Common date's worth $80, and the rare one's worth $5,000, and it's probably worth even more because I think to this date, the handful don't.
Yeah, just a handful of
just them. A small letter reverse, which I think maybe it's a 34 with like a type of 36 reverse.
Yeah, I'm gonna find it.
Underrated period in that regard. So tell us a little bit. I mean, we have a very short window of time about what you have in mind for the cherry picker guides coming up, because people want to know.
Yep. What the best thing kind of we want to do is make it more interactive for customers. So we're going to have, for like a lot of the new attributions that are going to be in the book, we're going to do a voting on that, so that you guys as the customers and collectors can actually vote on those coins to say, this one's good enough, it should be in the cherry picker's guide.
Right.
Or this one is, it's okay. That's still going to make it in the database with Connecta and that, so it'll still be people will recognize it. But at least it gives you guys as the customers almost the say on stuff that goes in the book.
Well, so a democratization of sorts, because one of the things that Patrick and I heard a lot, and we've now taken over Whitman for 18 months, and one of the early things I've heard about a lot is like the passion for the cherry picker guide, number one, but number two, how a lot of people felt like they didn't have a way to get their discovery in. How do I? And some people have very legitimate discoveries, not everybody, but there's some very well considered, but they didn't know, who do you go to? I mean, if you write their letters to people on the cover, maybe they didn't respond. But either way, we are opening this up. And Noal told me this idea yesterday. We're very young in this relationship of working together. And he says, I want to put the basket of new items, in the back of the book together, and let people vote or we'll figure out some way. Like, do we hit a QR code or do something to say, I support this one, or I totally disagree with you here. And then we're going to come out with a very regular publication schedule, like every 2 years or so, at the most, every 2 years. Anything less is okay. And then, but I also said, let's bring in 25 legitimately worthy items too. Correct. So we'll bring, and we're going to publish it all 3 volumes in 1 volume. And we're going to do this every few years or 2 years, and then have a much more open process that people can participate in. And one of the things that matters to me about Cherrypicker, I hope I didn't cut you off, Patrick, but one of the things that matters to me is value. Like, it's not a cherry pick. If you cherry pick a coin that's worth the same or 10 cents more, and so I was very emphatic with Noal about that. I was like, I want that if you found this coin, that you found something. That's the value.
Yeah, and by far, as you said, one of the most common emails we get, just generally at Whitman, and then to me myself, is how do we give feedback to cherry pickers? Right. How does it work? What if I have something that I think should be in this or that? And so now we have this process, and there always was a process, but it wasn't clear. And we, in the comments already, we have multiple people asking right now, and the answer is send an email to myself. It goes to Noal. It goes into a queue, and each one is evaluated on its merits, and we go from there. And as transparent as possible. And again, this new method of putting things in an actual book in print that are up to be decided.
Right. And we'll do some, like I said, we'll do some kind of online voting. Maybe we'll have an email, like cherrypicker@greysheet.com or something, or Whitman. But we'll also, I think something we didn't mention is that, Noal is very involved in the Kraljecvich website and that organization. That is really, this is something that's important to us at Whitman as caretakers of Whitman. We are really a caretaker of the industry in terms of information. And we're here, we make albums and folders and books, and we want all this for the robustness of the hobby. And so organizations like Kraljecvich matter and need their due. So we're not asking Noal to pick sides. We're not saying, hey, it's Kraljecvich or Whitman. It's both. It's, he's the webmaster there. He's putting up pictures. He's like, really what we see is the leading expert on such things. It's very complicated because you have to know about everything from Lincoln cents to Fujio cents or Morgan dollars and so on. So that's really great. Noal, I really appreciate you coming.
Thanks,
Noal. You want to sign out with?
I'll just say too that added with that, being an attributor for Kraljecvich with that, Patrick, is when you get emails and stuff of that nature, if somebody comes up with a new variety, we have the capability, one, not only to attribute it, give it a sign and number, but now then it can go in the cherry picker's guide. So it's going to kind of make it all done, almost kind of in-house, but it'll make it a lot easier to get this process done.
And you're not going to wear this guy out. He loves varieties. Like our next guest loves varieties too. So,
pleasure.
Anyway,
thank you guys. Pleasure.
Hey, do you know JD? You know John Dannreuther? So this is Noal White. So JD is our next guest. I call him JD. The world knows him as John Dannreuther. He's getting his headphone on, his microphone. But thank you, Noal, for joining us. And John Dannreuther is known throughout this numismatic hobby as one of the grand poobahs of information. He's the go-to guy he was a founder of PCGS. He's still a go-to guy probably at every grading service. Says, I don't really know. Let's call JD. That's who you call. And JD also happens to love varieties. He just likes them more in the gold genre. But I mean, he just published a book on proof shield nickels. And
he's a master of proof coins.
Proof coinage. So JD, thanks for coming.
Sure.
Thanks for joining us.
Yeah, sure.
And he's not on camera very often, so a little camera shy. But we're good. We don't bite. This is there's only like 14 people watching.
I've done a couple of slab labs.
Okay, good.
There you go.
This is more mundane with fewer bad jokes, or maybe more. Maybe more. But JD and I have been longtime friends. We've done lots of things together. We went to Amsterdam together like 25 years ago or something, and
not quite that long ago.
20? It's been a while.
15.
Yeah, I got the over on that. But anyway, a dear friend and someone I also will always turn to. Right now, there's a big conversation by emails with several really serious experts, and it always goes back to JD, where we're talking about Go-Breck dollars and the very complicated subject of crazy. Should be 4 coins. These guys want to call it 80 coins, and so these are the debates that we have. So, but anyway, thanks for joining us.
Sure.
How's the show going for you?
Show's very good.
It is.
Yeah,
And how do you rate that?
The summer Baltimore is always, it's not as active as the spring or the fall, but it's always a good show. Baltimore is a good coin town. You get people all from the East Coast.
Right.
And West Coast. I'm from the West Coast.
Yeah, you're LA, right?
Yeah,
I mean,
right.
We appreciate that you traveled here.
Yeah, JD, I didn't get to say hi, but I was also at the Buena Park show last week.
Oh,
so
really?
So you were there this past,
Yeah,
you were there, and then now you're there in Baltimore. How's the?
Well, I mean, obviously, the Buena Park show is not, it's not a big show. It's a small show, but it was very active. There were, there's 4 or 5 major dealers that show up there. Mid-major dealers, I guess you would call us. But it's always a very active show. There's lots of
Where's
public.
Buena Park? Is that in LA?
It's just a little, I don't know, it's a little south of LA.
Next to Anaheim.
Yeah, next to Anaheim.
Okay,
Right
okay.
north of Anaheim.
Okay, gotcha. I'll have to look Anaheim up on a map soon and let you know. But I get it. I'm just an East Coast guy, but you're really a Nashville guy. Memphis.
I live there. I live there.
Right. So he's really
40
going
years.
transplant.
Yeah.
West Coast transplant.
Yep.
So the show, I can tell you that I've seen people told me, like yourself, that dealers, you can't make a show good just because you put carpeting on the ground or put banners up. It's because the dealers need coins. That is the only thing that makes shows good on that setup day, and apparently people need coins, right?
Right. It's a very active market right now.
Yeah.
Very
Why is it
market.
active?
Well, there's a lot of unrest in the world. So you've got gold. It's been traveling upward.
Right. But does that help us? Do you think?
Yes, because that's a base.
Okay.
Gold and silver are the basis of our coinage. So, if the price of those go up, the price of the coins go up for the low end stuff. Now, the rare stuff obviously has very little to do with a $50,000 coin or a $20,000 coin. Doesn't really change with the price of gold. Like I just had a guy come up that's new to the business and was asking that exact question: does the price of gold affect all the gold coins? And it really doesn't, because when you're talking about a gold dollar that has $100 worth of gold in it and it's priced at $10,000, it's not affected by the price of gold, except psychologically. We're all psychological creatures.
That's
so
true.
in when you see something moving, you want to fear of missing out. You want to get on the train.
Jeff, my favorite expression about Jeff Garrett, FOMO.
FOMO. Yeah,
This guy won't miss a show.
Yeah.
But I agree, and there's some level of feeling wealth, the wealth effect. I feel wealthy if gold is 3,400, and most coin shops, Patrick, you know this or could explain this better than me, but most coin shops, the more they're trading, even though gold is 3,400 and that's too high for what the price point should be, and it's hard for them. If you're buying common things for 3,400, and then all of a sudden somebody shows you a 3-cent nickel for $12, well, you feel like I'd rather buy 1,000 of those, which I can't.
Right.
And so then they're $13. Little cheaper things seem.
A rising tide lifts all ships.
Yeah, it takes everything. Yeah, for sure.
And good cash flow. Now, I guess if the gold market, the bullion markets would crater, then a lot of these coin shops that didn't do a good job quickly turning over the inventory could get caught, and then they wouldn't feel wealthy. But as their success with bullion trading, they get a lot of business. They get more business buying coins in this market than selling.
Yeah.
Right? So then they come to a coin show, they're like, show me some cool coins.
Right. Most coin shops right now are buying heavily from the public, because what happens is obviously when you have a run up like we've had, people are taking advantage of it.
I would, right.
Yeah, I mean, if you bought gold at $300 or $500 or $800, now it's $3,400.
Right.
You're looking, I made a good money.
Right.
You take the profit. And so there are people that are taking their profits.
Yeah, my kid has like an apartment for $3,400 a month, and he thinks it's a lot. I was like, that's just one coin. I mean, that's nothing, right? It's just a coin. It's just
relevant.
Put that in my pocket.
I had a question. JD, we're working on the newest edition of our guidebook to type coins, which hasn't been done in quite a long time, and it covers both circulation strikes and proofs. And as you published some really monumental works in proof. How is because this one is always a little bit hard to gauge. To you, how is the market for proof type? like shield
Well,
nickels or seeded quarters?
That's
Or
very interesting. Like John said, when you look at a $20 gold piece, it's $34 for $3,500, and you can go buy a proof 65 3-cent nickel for $500. It looks like a bargain.
Right.
You know, you can buy 7 of those, and the market. If you go out on the bourse floor, you'll find out those coins have disappeared. So what happens in any market is there's an excess of coins, so the price goes down. Then all of a sudden, they start disappearing out of your case. And you realize that, oh, wait a minute, I don't have any more of those. And all of a sudden you realize you go out on the floor and nobody has them because they've been sucked up by the telemarketers or whoever it is, or some coin dealer decided, hey, you know, those sound cheap, I'll buy some of those.
Right.
And so when you have a thin supply, the price can easily go up. And my next book is on silver proof type. So yes, that will probably, it's already boomed. Nobody knows it yet because only the people on the inside know it.
Know what?
That silver type is boomed.
Yeah, because people don't talk about it.
Right. You won't hear about it until the prices go up, and then once the prices are higher, then everybody goes, oh yeah, this market's hot. Well, the people on the know, the insiders, they've already noticed it. Jason Carter's and those kind of people.
Go buy every MS65 PCGS Barber half you can find for $1,600. Which I'm not even sure what Greysheet is. Might even be $1,450. And if you come to this show or you go to all these other coin shows, you'll buy 5 of them at the most. And then once you buy those 5, there's none left.
Right.
And it's just the dumbest thing because that should be a $2,500, $3,000 coin.
Yep. And the proofs are the same way. Proofs are the same way. You can go buy a proof 65 Barber half for $1,600, $1,800.
Yeah.
You know. Yeah. I mean, I sold a proof seeded quarter here for $2,300, and it was a cameo. I mean, I'm looking at it going, that's too cheap.
Right.
But I sold it anyway,
especially
because I bought it for less.
If it has eye appeal. So a lot of proofs don't, these 19th century proofs don't have so much eye appeal. So if you eliminate that from your selection process and you say, I'll buy every proof seeded dime or, seeded quarter, bar, or half, whatever you want. And as long as it's got something of eye appeal and it's well graded, CAC sticker, no CAC sticker, whatever, you can't, and you stay within the ranges of Greysheet. You can't buy them for Greysheet necessarily. No. So buy them for up to 10% over. You're not going to run out of money, I don't think. You
won't buy very many of them because, a couple of years ago they were all over the place.
Yeah.
You buy all the 3-cent nickels you wanted, but there've been several programs that have
I didn't really notice that yet. But what I have noticed, and you can speak to this for 2 seconds, is that something has been going on in proof gold, especially proof double eagle. So proof 20 Liberty Gold, which has always been, we're talking about an expensive coin, right? Anywhere from $50,000 to $100,000 coins here, or $200,000 became $100,000 to $500,000 coins.
There were a couple of collectors putting sets together. I know of three different collectors putting together date sets of them.
Right.
So when you have something that's rare already,
yes,
it's difficult to find them.
Difficult. And these things are miniatures of like 40 coins, and then
25, 40, 50. The commons are 75. That's a common $20 gold piece.
Exactly, right. That's
because they started selling them.
What is that, like an 04? Or is 04 the most common?
They started selling them individually in 1881. Before that, you could only buy them through sets.
Right.
So that's why they have all really low minages prior to 1880.
Right.
39 and then 25 and 30. But after that, you could buy individual coins. Virgil Brand used to buy a gold proof set every year and 10 proof quarter eagles. That's why you see so many quarter eagles. I mean, those are available. And gold dollars, the same thing. Those were bought by jewelers.
Right. If it were me, I would buy proof 10s. I like the 10s better than the 20s. I don't know why. They're really rare, correct?
Yeah, they're all about the same rarity because each year. After you could buy them individually. When they were sold as sets, they all have the exact same miniatures. But after they sold them individually, the gold dollars were the most common, then 2.5s, then 5s, then 10s, and then 20s.
And their value difference, which is discrete, almost a stair step, like the 5s are worth more than 2.5s and 10s.
Right.
Those are essentially because people like larger coins. Is that basically it?
Silver dollars are the most popular silver coins.
So we're just physically larger, worth twice as much.
Size matter.
Size matters.
Going back to, there were 2 things we were talking about earlier, John, with the stack sale. The one in after A&A has some really killer matte Indian 10 proofs. Just amazing stuff.
Those are awesome.
And then one thing I just wanted to, we talked about silver. JD, what's your opinion on proof Indian scents? Because we're also doing a book coming up, a reissue of our Indian scent guidebook.
Well, I mean, obviously, you know, finding original proof Indian scents has become tougher and tougher.
I think they're too cheap.
Yeah, they probably are. Yeah, no, if you find a nice, pretty proof 65 red brown or brown,
Exactly.
you know,
Thanks for saying that. The reds all want to become red brown.
Yeah.
That's what it's like gravity. Red things want to become red brown, and the premium that the market has assigned to reds versus red brown.
Yeah, you can buy the red browns for
Almost
half or a third of what the
we
reds
really
are.
we really resisted pricing red copper, and I still do, because there's so much copper that the grading services don't really guarantee the color, and I guess they can't. But it's
too reactive a metal,
right?
You know?
But
whereas gold's going to look the same basically, and silver, of course, can tone, but in general, it takes a lot longer. Whereas copper can turn very quick.
Copper's going to turn, and it can turn really quickly if it somehow gets in the wrong environment.
Yeah, right.
And if it's not kept in perfect condition.
Right.
So
for sure.
That's cool. So JD, you've written some awesome books. You know, you did an entire book on what is the most recent books you published?
Well, I did. Well, right now I'm in a series of proof coins. I did proof gold, proof nickel, the proof silver book. In theory, will be out this year. I pray that it is.
Proof silver?
Yes. It's
Okay.
1,300 pages. So editing it I'm through writing, but I'm still editing. Editing 1,300 pages.
That's
is
a labor
tough.
of love.
Yes, of course.
A labor of love.
Obviously,
Right.
these weren't written to make money. And then I'm going to do proof copper. But you know, the early gold book, people like that. The vast Dannreuther book on 1795 to 1834 gold. But I'm also doing a vanity project for Steve Markoff, the man who started A-Mark.
Right.
Right. He bought a coin in 1969. It's a long story, but he later sued the government and won. So it's a book about a silver dollar. He bought a 93S dollar that the customer brought it back and said it was fake. And of course it wasn't. But it'd be an interesting book.
Okay. That is interesting. Yeah.
Yep.
Steve Markoff's very interesting and well-known character of the coin hobby from the 1970s and 80s.
Yeah, well, I mean, his main thing that people know about is he bought the Redfield collection.
Okay.
407,000 silver dollars in 1976.
So the original slabber, right? Was that the original slab, or
to me, the original slabbing is the U.S. government CC dollars.
The GSAs.
The GSAs.
Yeah, that's the original slabs.
Those Redfield hold red ones, is that Paramount, right?
Yeah, Paramount traded, and Steve Markoff just recently told me this. I knew he had traded the Redfield dollars for Wilkinson gold patterns. Dr. Wilkinson had the greatest set of U.S. gold patterns. It's extremely rare. Most of them are unique, you know. But he traded for 47 of the Wilkinson collection, which was, I think, 60 or 61 coins. But he traded for the Indian Head 20, the Amazonian set in gold, all unique coins.
Right.
The Sailor Head 5 and 10. I mean, he not only bought the Redfield deal and traded it, he made a lot of money on the proof gold.
Did he sell that collection to Ed Trumpeter?
He sold those various people. In fact, the people that used to own Whitman bought a lot of them, bought the Sailor Head 5 and 10.
Oh, because they had the
Charles
Anderson family was putting together the full complete pattern.
And when they sold that, they sold it all to
Laura Sperber's client.
Simpson.
Bob Simpson.
Bob Simpson. Right. But Steve Markoff did a double, because he not only made a lot of money on the Redfield deal, he made a lot of money on the Indian Head 10, 20, and the Amazonian set and all the other pattern gold coins.
So it's interesting. I've never met Steve Markoff. I talked to him on the phone one time when he also owned, I think, Superior Auction Galleries. Right. And I had one conversation with him, I remember vividly. I was somehow in a hot tub. "You don't know me, I'm Steve Markoff." And I was like, "Oh, I've heard of you." But we never met.
Very famous guy.
Yeah, very well known.
Very reclusive.
Is that right? Interesting.
They're-
That you found him and you're doing a book for him.
Yeah, he found me actually.
Yeah, he finds people, right? He found me
there
that
you go.
day in the hot tub and he
Right,
discovered
yeah.
me. Well,
Steve Ivey told him to call me.
okay, good, good.
That's how I got
Well,
it.
Very cool.
JD, thank you for all the contributions you make to
All right.
Whitman and help
Yep.
us out with, and we appreciate your time and
bet.
sharing a little bit at the show. So
All right.
appreciate seeing
Great.
you. Thank you.
Take care.
Thanks.
Okay, so we have one more guest, Noah from the Noah. Oh, great. So this is someone I'm meeting as well. We've met before, but I don't know him very well. I'm going to turn the camera real quick to show the floor.
There you go.
There we go. So here's where we're at. We're at the Whitman Expo, and as you can see, it's pretty. I don't know if you can tell from the picture. It's pretty busy here.
Yeah.
And we're just in the back corner, so not the best camera view, but it's going on here. I gotta say, it's
Nice.
I didn't know what to expect for June. I thought okay, but the market is clearly good, or these folks wouldn't come out to see me.
I was
I'm
really
glad
excited
they're
to hear that about the proof
Come
coins.
on in, Noah. Yeah, for sure. I actually, it's a little bit news to me that he says that proof coins are about to get really hot because the market hasn't really changed yet, I would say.
Exactly.
So maybe that's a little bit of a tip. Keep an eye on proof type. Noah,
Yeah.
John
to meet you.
Feigenbaum.
Nice
So
to
how
meet
are you? Nice
I'm
to meet you
good.
too.
How are you?
What's your last name?
Noah Flynn.
Flynn.
Yes,
And
sir.
Noah is one of our NexGen members, and NexGen is a subgroup within the PNG, the Professional Numismatist Guild, and I'm the executive director, so I should be able to pronounce that better. But as one of our early mandates, as when I took over as executive director, was to start a new program to help younger folks, at probably ages 15 to 25 or so, get integrated into the hobby. You guys really came in strong around the time of COVID and came in with like all this new way of doing business that us old-time dealers don't know about. And we see you running amok at the shows, and we're like, hey, can we help? Can the PNG be helpful and sort of be mentors to these people? There's other programs like Stacks has a program, and of course WitterU and A&A Forever has been doing university classes in the summer. Where the PNG just wanted to do was kind of be mentors and just be around if you guys have questions, because it gets complicated. You guys are dealing probably for young people. You're dealing with some big money.
For sure, yeah.
So what do you do? Tell me.
So I'm mainly dealing in US type. I specialize in tap bust half dollars.
Really?
Yes, sir. Yeah, that's like my favorite coin of all time. I just really enjoy.
Huh.
It's such a beautiful coin.
Okay. Okay. We just hired this guy, Nick, who works for Whitman, loves bust halves. He's like an Overton junkie.
Oh, yeah, me too.
You are?
Yeah.
Okay.
I bought a book and I just been those.
Nick's pushing us to do an Overton, reprint of an Overton book. So maybe you can help us out.
Yeah,
That'd be
maybe.
awesome. We can,
I have an extra one. Yeah.
Well, I got the book. I need the new.
Oh,
I need a new one. I want a new one.
I only have the old
When was the
ones.
last time an Overton book was published?
That's a good question. I'm actually not sure.
5th edition was in,
Don Parsley or something, right?
Yeah.
That's the guy.
yeah, at the
Been a while.
latest 2004, 2005.
Yeah. So that's
That's
20
amazing.
years.
Yeah.
Were you born?
No, that's older than me.
Not even born
Yeah,
yet.
we gotta get a new
And here
book
he
on.
is collecting. So you collected bust halves, and now you deal in them.
Yes, sir.
And do you have a collection, or you like?
So the way I like to deal is I like to say my inventory is my collection. So if I like a coin, I'll pay up for it, of course. And if I get tired of it, I'll just sell it and then keep the money and keep going.
That's smart. That's smart. My dad was a barber specialist, and we didn't have much money, and really not enough money to have a collection and a business, because the business became, the collection became the seed, and he learned early. He'd keep an ONS quarter and VF, which is just an impossible coin, and somebody would, he'd help build a whole set, and then the guy's like, I really need an ONS and VF, and he's like, oh my god, all right,
Yeah.
I'll sell it to
Everything's
you.
for sale.
And then we'd send it, and then the guy would say, I remember this very clearly, the guy said, well, send it in to PCGS to get graded. And at that time, this was like 1986, 1987. And my dad's like, oh, well, they're never, I don't want to, what if they don't grade it VF and those guys don't know what they're doing? And the thing came back, I think, XF45. But, and I was like, Dad, you screwed up.
Man,
He didn't really understand grading in 1987. It was like this phenomenon.
brand new, right?
Yeah, it was new. We didn't
Yeah.
understand this idea. So, all right. So tell me about your business. Do you do business dealer to dealer? Do you have customers that are collectors?
So Mainly, I'm dealer, but I like to do retail side. But it's pretty hard because I'm still in school. I actually just graduated high school.
Okay. Where do you live? Ballpark.
College Station, Texas.
Okay.
So it's like
Aggie.
north of Houston. Yes,
A&M.
yeah.
Right,
Exactly.
right.
Exactly. Yeah. So I've opened an eBay store, and that's been okay. But when I'm at shows, it's 100% dealer to dealer, no retail. But,
Interesting.
And it keeps me good.
So with the P&G, this is a good plug because the P&G we're just finalizing the details with eBay, because eBay loves this NexGen program and they want to come to our November show and they want to do something for the NexGen kids. They want to do that. They want to set up a room where they help you polish off how you do business better for this platform. So I'm literally going to send them this video now to share, and you'll become their poster child, I think. I mean, this is what they want. And they're right to want that. And I'm so glad that they're getting involved this way. My opinion, which you didn't ask for, is you build that retail clientele. Do not rely on dealers to bail you out of this business. You may always be ahead of yourself. Like you may know that, must-haves in XF are underpriced. Greysheet's at 160. I'll pay 200. I can't get Greysheet to get there. And if you have the collectors on the other end, they'll know. You'll tell them this story. The same thing we were talking with John Kraljecvich earlier about piece metals and other metals and things like that. And his knowledge, forget the sheet. If you talk to John for 10 minutes, you're just going to say, I'll buy whatever you're selling because I feel your love and I feel the knowledge of it. And I just want to work with you and help me build my collection. And
the story sells the coin.
Story sells the coin, and your energy, you're going to go out and you're going to spend all your nights on wherever eBay and other platforms and help source coins for me. And I'll say to you, help me build a set of must-haves, because otherwise it's a 10-year adventure.
For sure. It's
a
long time.
Help me do that. And I think that's really great.
Yeah, to me, there's a very strong argument for specialization, because a lot of that is gone. To me, in the modern market, it's gone. Like, there used to be like, who's the Lincoln Sim guy? Who's the Mercury Dime guy? And I think nowadays with slabbing, and especially with that I see with younger dealers, they just buy and sell everything. But if you become the person in a certain field, not only are you going to get offered the best deals, you're also going to have the best and most loyal retail customers because you have the knowledge, and with the knowledge comes the inventory, I think.
Sure. People come to you. People will bring it to you, because I'll say, well, Noal will pay me more than anybody. Well, so Noah, answer this question. Is it the 1834 small letters must-have? That's the rare variety. This was earlier in the podcast.
I looked it up.
I believe it is.
Yeah. You looked
39.
it up. 39. The 30. So it's a reeded edge with small letters reverse. Which is the seated half, which is the type of 1840, I guess.
So it's like stacks full of 90,000.
It's a transitional. Okay. Super rare. That's the Cherrypicker coin of the year for
if you find that, that's the
that's the holy grail.
Yeah.
Well, not the holy grail. There's a lot of great must-haves. I'm sure that you could pick up.
I found one today. It was a 1824 various overdates. It wasn't attributed on the holder, and I just bought the coin. It's a nice original must-have.
Okay, what grade was it about?
Probably a VF30.
Okay, so VF30. What did you pay for it?
So in a regular 1824, probably around $300.
Okay.
With the various overdates, $650 maybe.
Good.
So there you go.
Right. Yeah. I mean, not a great argument for high school or college, I suppose, but that is the life of a coin dealer. I mean, this is where I grew up doing the same thing. We'd had an early conversation about how I cherry-picked 69 over 8 pennies, and the more you know, like if you really know must-haves like the Overton book in your head, there's guys that know the large cent, the Sheldon book, things like that. Kraljecvich can Sheldon almost any coin at sight, which is crazy.
That's insane.
It's insane, but his knowledge will help him get there. And so, what else besides must-haves do you like? Sorry.
I like any kind of large size, any large size type, so like halves, quarters, I'm okay.
Bigger is better.
Exactly. Dollars, I like, seated dollars.
I like little coins.
Really?
I like dimes. I mean, like the 94S dime is my favorite coin. So I don't understand why people don't love the little coin.
A really kind of a specific niche I've been in recently is like circulated tone type. So like it tones and then it circulates, and then not like cleaned and retoned, but the
like circulated album toning.
Exactly.
It's like an iridescent. It's really cool.
I saw a rainbow toned, I think 1838 seated quarter in pour one here at the show.
I remember seeing that.
You saw that, yeah, over here, like Owl Numismatics.
That
I was like, what?
Crazy.
What?
Yeah.
I don't think Greysheet's going to be accurate on that one. You know,
yeah.
It's like Greysheet's $30 and he wants $650.
Yeah,
you know?
That coin's crazy.
It is crazy. It's wild to see. It clearly from a Weight Raven album and
sure.
that kind of toning. Really cool. So, okay, so what is your short-term plan?
So I'm going to go to college. I'm going to join the Corps of Cadets.
At A&M?
So I'm going to Tarleton first, and I'll transfer to A&M for a year. Once I'm in A&M, not sure if I'll do the Corps. I'm just going to try figure that out for a year, see if I like it, you know.
But they have one there. They obviously do.
Yeah, it's a lot smaller, but it's still a Corps. And then after that, I'll come back to A&M, and I'll keep doing coins.
Good. Well, you know, in Texas, you got a lot of great opportunities. Not really. I don't know anybody in College Station, but of course in Houston you have the U.S. Coin Gang, and then in Heritage, you know, it's in Dallas you've got all kinds of stuff.
Yeah.
Do you see yourself working for somebody, or do you see yourself kind of being your own guy?
I always want to be kind of on my own.
Good for you.
Yeah, I'd like to have a coin shop. That's my kind of big goal. Is by the end of college, at least have an office, you know, to work out.
And you want to stay there in College Station, kind of like that? You love it there?
Yeah, I love it there.
Born and raised?
Yes.
Okay, cool. Very cool. I've never been. My sister actually had a job there at a travel agency for like a year.
That's cool.
It's like that's how I know this stuff. Like otherwise, how would I know it?
Yeah.
It's like Slumdog Millionaire. Like I win the lottery because there's like a connection.
I just need to go to Crown Field these once.
Right.
It's crazy there. The atmosphere is just insane.
Is it?
Yep.
Yeah, going during a game, it's insane.
Yeah.
That's what I like about it.
Seems like an awesome place. It really does.
It's a good school.
Good. Well, thanks for joining us. Is there anything you want to add? I mean,
not at the moment, no.
Cool.
Well, I appreciate you inviting me on.
Absolutely. I'm so happy you're here, and you know, I look forward to seeing you around the show. Now that we met, it's like a better introduction than just randomness. But so
awesome. Nice
take care of yourself, and have a good show. We'll keep checking in.
See you
around. Awesome. So that was fantastic. That was, that was 4 really good guests, right? I mean, that was really fantastic. It was kind of easier than what we always have to do, generate our own conversations.
Yeah, I mean, it just goes where it goes.
Yeah, and you know, any of those guys, especially like, you know, if you can get JD talking, which I had dinner with JD last night, and he's got so many war stories. It's amazing. You know, he's the guy who discovered the 1913. We didn't discover the 13 nickel. He was on hand when. Then PCGS made a big promotion one year at an A&A, said, hey, if you have a 13 nickel, we'll give you a $10,000 reward. Well, they knew nobody would have one. And sure enough, the one missing coin shows up at the show, and they called JD at midnight or something. And they said, JD, get out of bed.
Yep.
We need you to authenticate a 13 nickel. And he did. And it's just such a story. So I'll get him to talk about that in a future episode. We'll get him on. He's just seen everything. He's an awesome guy. And JK, same thing. We only talked for metals for a few minutes, but he can talk about any subject.
100%.
So that was fun. And a couple, Billy, who's a wonderful producer and showrunner, and she doesn't want to be on camera, but she'll be upset if I don't promo our latest publications, which we do hear about from people. They want to know what's coming. So this one is hot off the press. This is like a pre-press copy of Paper Money Errors by Frederick and Bianca Bart. It is just the coolest book. I'm sure it's going to do really, really well. But this father-daughter duo have reprised his 5th edition, and he reprised his last book with her help. And it's all color, and people love error. They love error coins. They love error paper money. This book has all that information. We've got what else?
And speaking of, just real quick, speaking of cherry picking. The only thing I've ever cherry-picked my entire life is paper money, and that's just like, there's so much, and that errors book will help you do that.
Exactly. You know, and I don't know if I ever told you this, Patrick, but when that, the famous Del Monte banana sticker coin, the sticker that's on, what is it, a $10 bill or some?
It's on a 10 or 20.
A $10 bill. Heritage first sold it, and I was at, I don't know, it was an A&A maybe 15 years ago, and I was like, oh, that's a $20,000 item, I think, and it just seems crazy. Like they printed a $10 bill, and this seal was stamped on top of the sticker, so it was clearly done.
Pressed.
Right, somebody's eating a banana and the sticker falls off, at the press at the BEP, and I didn't buy it, and I should have, because that thing has now become still legendary. I think it's worth six figures easily. Another
Probably
one
like
should have for me.
$125,000.
Yeah, another missed opportunity for yours truly. but I've been around long enough to have seen a lot of things that became much rarer after I liked them. Second book that we just released, Patrick, is what?
Kid Loves
Kids Love
Coins.
Coins.
Yeah, awesome book. Very famous author that's written tons of children's books about all kinds of different things, but this one's about coins. Great, amazing illustrations, all original art. Cool stuff. It's a really good gift.
We love this. I mean, this is like this is one of the benefits of being at Whitman now for us. It's like I don't know when the last time somebody published a legitimate children's book on that featured coins in the subject matter, so that now you're a coin collector. You know, you could read this to your 5-year-old or 6-year-old. It's a you know, for small children, and it's really great, wholesome. And you know, I was at a Smithsonian event yesterday, and they are hopefully wanting this for their gift shop. You know, this is a connection item for them. You know, they have lots of kids. How do you connect them? You know, and we want to get kids off of cell phones and things like that. We want to get, you know, like coins is that. I mean, Noah. I mean, here's a kid who's not on he's on his cell phone working, but he's also looking at coins. You know,
Absolutely.
He's interacting with adults, and it's just fantastic to see.
And it, you know, it's kind of a obvious thing, but numismatics touches so many subjects that you learn in school: history, math, finance, economics. You know, all these things.
And digital currency is not far behind. If you know, before yesterday, I would have said, you know, I don't know how to connect those two subjects. Everybody says, oh, you're a coin dealer. You know, do you deal in Bitcoin? I'm not a coin dealer anymore. And Bitcoin is not a coin.
It's not a coin.
But now, but it's a currency, right? And coins are nothing but a currency. So
medium of exchange, exactly.
If this is what we're talking about, then we are talking about coins. And how do we connect these two things? And it's very interesting. But so anyway, next subject, we have just released what, Patrick, I'll let you to introduce this. This is your baby.
Yes. So we have a line that we call the Prestige album. It's an awesome, very high quality place to put your raw coins. If you collect BU sets of anything, Lincoln cents, Washington quarters, Morgan dollars, peace dollars, silver eagles, and pretty much everything else in between. You know, the typical page with the slides. You got your labels, you got your dates. Just a really cool new line of albums that are, again, high quality. And you know, I've seen a couple of pictures of albums with coins in them, and they look really great. They come in black, they come in burgundy. You know, you can customize it, and it comes with a slip cover. So really cool stuff.
Yeah. I mean, we challenged our team, and we said, you know, we took over Whitman 18 months ago, and we said, this is great. Everybody loves Whitman folders and albums. This is a 100-year, you know, product in a sense. But we need something the next level up. And so we said, make something better. We want it all to be always to be in a slip cover. We just wanted to, you know, when you put together a set of Morgan dollars in an album, you've invested. You've also invested so much time. So this is the next level quality up. And so far, I got to say the market is reacting very favorably. You got the Harry Miller Approval Award. I went over to Harry. Harry was part of our impetus because Harry is Miller's Mint, and people know Miller's Mint or don't. They've been around for 50 years or so. He's an old timer, and everything he deals is almost raw. And he's selling always the coins that people put in albums. And so he said, John, you know, you got to do, you know, get Whitman to make a better album. I said, Patrick, let's do that. And I showed him today. I said, this is it. This is the culmination of a year's effort. And it took us a year to make one. And he loved it. And I was like, oh God, please like this, because he will tell me if he doesn't. But
there's no doubt about that.
People are liking it, so we make them in different colors. We might even make blue, you know, because I think blue would be a good color too, even though it's similar to the Whitman blue. But that's great, well received.
And one other thing I'll throw out is we have an upcoming book on silver eagles, a guidebook that was written by John Mercanti and also David Ryder, the former Mint director. That it's going to be the 5th edition of a book that Whitman has already come out with. But I think it's really timely, especially considering that just last week the Proof Privy Mark Army Silver Eagle came out and sold out.
Oh, it did? I actually never asked you about that. It sold out in a second?
I don't know how quickly, but it wasn't. It was not available on the. It came out on the 13th. It was not available on the 14th. So
interesting. So, and they were. I think they released at. Did they release at 105 or 91? What did they release at? Something like
150,000. Oh, you did the price?
Yeah.
Was 92, I believe.
$92. So that's what almost 3 times silver melt price. And so the U.S. Mint is becoming aware of the premiums they've been leaving on the table. And so, yeah, this is a collector's item, and they're realizing the benefits, and they're making privy marks. They've got these weird privy marks coming up this year. One we don't know yet. It's a laser beam. That's all that we've seen. What is a laser beam privy mark? But they've got all the armed services, or at least I know that Navy and
Marine Corps.
Marines. Yeah, so those two. This is great for the hobby. We love it. They have a new interim mint director there, and she's seemingly doing a fantastic job at continuing this trend and making sure these products come out. And so hopefully we'll have her on a future podcast too. I'm really excited about what they're doing over at the Mint. So all good. And,
so it'll be a great book, and it will come in 2 sizes. So again, another thing that you can pair with the new album. You get the whole package going.
Right. Hopefully. And the book, as you mentioned, this with John Mercanti, who was the chief mint engraver and very well-known guy in the hobby, beloved as the work he did to create the Silver Eagle, among many other things. And then David Ryder, the former mint director under 2 different presidents, Bush 1, and then Trump, the first Trump administration. And David is just an awesome guy, and I love it. We've had him on podcasts, and he's just a great ambassador for our hobby. He's the best, really.
Yeah, and the book actually has one of the highlights of the book, or if not the highlight of the book, is him telling some behind-the-scenes stories that you're not going to be able to get anywhere else that have never been published before. So, just for that, it's worth reading for sure.
Exactly. I mean, we always say it's the story. Coin collecting is all about the story, and then we need these people to tell us their story. So that we'll do that more and more. Thanks for joining us today, Patrick. Why don't you sign us out?
Yeah. Thanks for everyone for being active in the chat and for checking it out. And thank you for anyone who's attended the Whitman Expo this go around. And we'll see you for episode 4 very soon.
Sounds great. Thanks. Thank you so much. See you later.